quick look back at the top 10 most expensive Lincoln cents sold at auction during the course of 2022. We'll kick things off with a classic rarity from the early wheat cent series. This is the 1922 No D strong reverse penny, where the reverse die suffered a catastrophic die break and had to be replaced entirely. But rather than replacing the obverse die as well, it was polished to remove the clash marks instead, only to remove the D mint mark below the date as well. What we have here is an absolutely fantastic deep chocolate brown cent with select cherry red highlights in places. Graded by PCGS as MS64 brown, it sold at the January fun auction for $43,200. In the number 9 slot is the 1969 S Double Die Obverse Memorial Cent. Without a doubt, one of the best known varieties of this type and definitely one of the most popular Lincoln pennies out there, with the doubling unmistakable on all of the obverse letters, including Liberty, as well as the date. An extremely high-grade example of this coin was offered at auction in the May Central States US Coins auction, graded by PCGS as MS64 Red, which managed to secure a closing price at auction of $49,200. Next is a coin that you wouldn't typically expect to find on a list like this, the 1918 Lincoln penny. It has a large mintage of over 288 million coins. The large mintage is even specifically noted in the Mint Director's report for that year. Nonetheless, this is an excellent example of a conditional rarity, where a coin that might be easy to come by appears in a grade that is virtually impossible to come by. Sitting at the very top of the conditional census as PCGS MS68 Red, with an incredible strike to boot, it sold at the Spring Rarities Night sale for $55,200. And in a continuing trend for the year, conditional rarities outprice coins that are more traditionally rare in absolute terms. The growing popularity of registry sets no doubt having an influence on this pricing trend. The 1956 penny, after all, is anything but rare. If anything, it is somewhat notorious for having poor strike details, as the obverse dies were all prepared from a worn-out master hub near the end of its useful life. But here again, a coin in an MS67 plus grade is a challenge to acquire, to say the least. But still, it is fair to say that a closing price of $57,600 came as a surprise to most involved. Much like the previous coin, this 1923 S cent was sold as a part of the Bender family collection, but unlike the 1956 coin, the San Francisco issued 23 penny is already typically a coin known for fetching a slight premium in the markets, well, in comparison at least. There are no coins known to exist for this issue above the MS65 level, and aggravating the issue, many technically higher grade coins were cleaned in past decades, reducing the amount of truly collectible coins even further. The fact that we have definitely seen reflected in the price of these coins over the past, say, 5 years or so. Graded by PCGS as MS65 plus Red, it sold during August for $60,000. Mint records, specifically the metal and proof book, indicate that 1,194 matte-proof 1909 VDB cent coins were minted before the VDB initials were removed from the reverse design. However, in 1947, the mint officially stated that only 420 such coins were minted. Wherever the truth may lie, the current surviving population for the 1909 VDB matte-proof cent suggests a mintage that perhaps is even far lower than that still. What is not in doubt, however, is that this NGC-graded Proof 66 Red example is one of the finest known examples of this surviving population today, securing a closing price at auction of $60,000. The 1911 D wheat cent is almost always characterized by a weak strike, and as if that wasn't quite bad enough, poorly impressed mint marks as well. This coin, however, seems to be exempt from just about every generalization for this issue, sharply struck with impeccable details and perfectly preserved with fully red mint luster. You would be hard-pressed to find a finer example. In fact, it would be actually impossible, as there are none finer graded on the combined census reports at all. So, in August, this PCGS MS67 red coin was sold for $66,000 at auction. The 1914D wheat cent is already widely known as a key date for the series, as not even 1.2 million coins were struck for the issue, and this is unfortunately one of those coins that I would advise especially inexperienced collectors to always buy a slabbed coin, as counterfeits remain a persistent concern. This example was authenticated by PCGS with a grade of MS66 red, and as such, it exists as one of the finest known surviving examples for the issue. It was sold at auction for a resounding $72,000. And then, for the first princess, so to speak, we find the 1909 SVDB Lincoln penny. The Lincoln cent had barely made its way into circulation when objections were lodged against Victor D. Brenner, the artist who designed the coin, making his initials seem apparently too prominent on the reverse of the coin. San Francisco only had time to mint 484,000 of these coins before production was halted to address the issue, which ultimately meant removing the VDB from the coin altogether. This coin is graded by PCGS as MS67 red, and at auction it raised $168,000. And then, for the most expensive Lincoln cent to have sold at auction in 2022, we have a legendary rarity, the 1943 copper penny, struck on leftover copper planchets from the 1942 run, during a year that all pennies were meant to be struck from zinc-coated steel planchets instead. Today, only about 24 of these Philadelphia mint coins can be positively identified. Rather famously, there was once a rumor that Henry Ford, founder and owner of the Ford Motor Company, would give anyone a brand new car in exchange for one of these coins. By all reputable accounts, nothing more than a rumor with no foundation in reality, but it did help to popularize the coin's fame, or perhaps I should say infamy, in the minds of the public at large. The current example appears to have made its auction debut. Slabbed by PCGS as AU50, it secured a closing price at auction of $336,000. Subscribe to WNN for more videos like this, and consider watching a video about the 10 most expensive US coins that were sold during 2021. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you for watching, keep collecting, and have a fantastic day.